Hello everyone and welcome to the LightBringers Podcast episode 30 of Season 2. I hope you're very good and you're enjoying yourself. Today we are talking about important things like how to say people's names. That is the podcast. It may take not too long because there's only 5 of us here. And if you don't know how to say my name by now, you are fired. So there's also that. Okay.
Jebro.
What?
Jebro.
Actually, people really struggle whenever I raid someone who I don't know. Like they say, Jebro. They say Jebro, but like it's
just
a G.
one E.
Why would you say Jebro?
I don't know. Jebro.
It's one E.
Jebro,
and
sorry,
an O.
not Roo. Jebro.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, like that. Like Angie Star wrote in the chat, Jebro.
Well, also, like, J could be a Y in some languages, right? So, like, you could be, yeah, bro.
Yeah,
That's
bro.
how it's said in. That's how it's said in Holland. Yeah. The Netherlands. That was the German thing. That was wrong. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the LightBringers Podcast. Hope you're doing good. We got Boots, we got Kroof, we got Rookery, we got the Crichton Herald, aka Onyx, or the other way around. Which is what that should have been. Today is going to be about, well, actually, it's kind of, I was going to say part 3 of our kind of mini series that we're doing about Guild Wars 2, kind of borrowing or adjusting things from other games, MMORPGs. I know people have enjoyed vastly the past episodes of this as well. And last episode before we went live on Twitter, I asked you to pop some questions and comments on, and tons of people did. We might not necessarily go through them all, but we're actually going to do a future episode where we're going to do Q&A. I would like to do that live, preferably, but we'll have questions that you can have on the stream if you're not able to make it and you just watch or listen live wherever. So if you would like to do that, in the comments below, please chuck your questions. And these can be about anything Guild Wars 2 related. Specifically, I know we tend to delve into other areas of life at times. But yeah, try and keep it Guild Wars 2 related if you can, and we'll chuck it on the podcast. That will come up in the next couple of, maybe next month, towards the end of the month, or maybe we'll make it a Christmas thing, make it a little bit fun. We'll see. Otherwise, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do the things, helps the algorithm and all the stuff. The show's getting watched by a ton of people. Appreciate it wherever you are. If you're on Apple Music, make sure you chuck a little review. Tell people how good the podcast is if you enjoy it. And if you don't bother. It's fine. You don't have to. It's all good. Do a mini intro. Like, you got, like, tell us your main thing. What you do. Where you do it. Boots. How you doing? What's going on?
Hi. I am, I do videos over on World of Enders on YouTube. And yeah, I make videos about Guild Wars 2 mostly. Okay. Used to be Minecraft videos back in the day.
True.
Really? I never knew that. That's... With your girlfriend, actually.
That's right. So, wait, I thought you said you never knew that.
Oh, caught in a lie. Caught in a lie.
I was caught in a lie, a huge lie, which has now been caught by people.
Hence, being caught in a lie.
Imagining like a bank robber or something, like as he's being escorted to the police car, being like, I was caught in a bank and I was robbing it. I am a bank robber.
And a liar.
Who is now caught. Who is now caught by police.
I was caught there, and also Kroof was there as the getaway driver. Can you tell us how
I was there.
You were?
I don't currently have my license, so I'm also going to jail for that. No. Hi, everyone.
I don't think you can go to jail for that, but that's okay. It will contribute probably to your sentencing.
Anyways, I do a lot of videos over on YouTube, specifically about Guild Wars 2 and other MMOs. And sometimes I'm also here on Twitch. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good one. Yeah. Okay. I'm excited today, as you can tell. Rookery, hello.
Hello.
How are you? Intro. We're doing intros, Rookery. We've been here for like 30 shows this season. And last season was a lot as well. Never done this before.
What? I've never done this before, or have I? Who's the liar now? Yeah, that's right. Spit your coffee out, Jebro.
Jesus Christ.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rook, and I'm here again. And I'm also a content creator, maybe a bank robber. I'll never tell. No, I'm not a bank robber, although that'd be really cool. I'm kind of disappointed in myself.
You're
but
disappointed in yourself?
Well, disappointed. I wish I had like a cool dark secret that I could share with everybody, but I really don't.
Being a bank robber.
And it wouldn't be a dark secret anymore.
I know, right? So it would ruin it. When I'm not lying about robbing banks, you can find me over on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv Rookery. You can also find me on YouTube and Twitter, except on Twitter it is @Rookery_. And I just love MMOs. I play a lot of Final Fantasy 14, a lot of Guild Wars 2, and I'm a big lover of story lore and all content casual to hardcore. So we do a little bit of everything, and if I'm not live, I'm probably making videos, or I'm on podcasts or other special appearances around the internet.
Excellent. First question from the chat is there ever an episode where intros and outros aren't complete shit shows? Yes, because sometimes we don't do them, so...
You made Fornax angry,
Wow.
Obsidian. How dare you?
Well, Fornax hasn't done their intro yet,
They're about to
which
do
is
it.
probably going to be fantastic, right?
It's going to be amazing.
Your
It's gonna
turn.
be flawless.
Not
We
the
have
right
also
at the end.
Fornax here as well, who would love to do their
thank you so much
introduction
for
for themselves.
remembering me. That's just.
What do you mean remembering you?
awesome.
I wasn't at the end. I haven't even introduced
Okay,
myself.
Okay.
Go on, you
Okay.
can go now.
Okay,
fine,
I take it back. I
fine,
take it
fine.
back. It wasn't going to be amazing because it's already gotten off to a rocky start. But continue, Fornax. It's okay.
Because you
Oh,
said it
thank
would
you.
be.
Gosh, great. So that's me, Fornax, the Crichton Herald. I make YouTube content, and I'm going to be actually doing some live streaming on Twitch this weekend because I have
Oh.
keycaps to give away still. So I'm going to do that this weekend. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm probably going to be playing some Final Fantasy 14, and I'm probably going to
Oh,
be
cool.
playing some Guild Wars 2. That's the plan over the weekend.
Cool.
plan.
I
Yeah,
might have to
that's it.
coordinate with you maybe and see what you're up to.
I also want to get into End of Elder Scrolls Online. I know you play that,
Oh,
and I have
yes.
no fucking clue what I'm doing because it's been ages since I played it.
If
So if you want
do a
to
thing, yeah.
hold my hand and take me through that, that would be
Sure.
great.
That would be
I'll
fun.
join for that. I
Sure.
love
We
it.
could all we could do a Lightbringers Invades. Oh,
You know what? I haven't touched ESO in some time, but I know what I'm doing in ESO too.
you don't have
get
to know what you're
here.
doing. The game is piss easy.
Now, Boots, are you the only one? Do you have ESO? Have you ever played ESO?
I did play ESO, yeah.
Oh,
I think everyone
okay.
probably tried it at some point, like right at the
Yes.
beginning, and just went, "Oh dear, launch
I
was
think I
bad."
picked it up when it went free to play for the first little bit
Oh.
or whatever.
The one-time real
And,
thing. Yeah.
and then, yeah, it was fine.
Well,
That's
actually,
accurate.
that may come up
high
today.
praise
Well,
there.
ESO will come up today in many different ways because. What features in other MMORPGs live services do you like that could be added or adjusted to fit Guild Wars 2's model? Oh, or just Guild Wars 2 in general. There is a bunch of
Now,
stuff. What is
To clarify,
Okay.
because I think there was some confusion, at least on the previous cast.
There's
about,
always confusion.
of course. I mean, that's our
Which
collective
one do you
natural
mean?
state of being. But I think there was some confusion about the delineation here between features that already exist
No.
in Guild Wars 2, which was our previous topic.
Yes.
Calm down, Jebro. Calm down.
Yeah, bro.
Our previous topic was about features that already existed
Yes.
in Guild Wars 2
Yes.
that could be enhanced by drawing inspiration from other games that might have similar features.
Mm-hmm.
This topic is, according to Jebro, different because
In some way.
it is features from other MMOs that Guild Wars 2 does not already have some
Yes.
kind of version of that we'd like to see brought into the game to broaden what the game offers. Did I get that right, Jebro?
Yes, that's what I just said.
This was a very confusing structure. So honestly, I appreciate Rook's clarification because I apparently got it wrong last time.
That is what I just
Chat,
said,
we
though.
all knew I was right, but
I
that's
didn't
okay.
want to call you out, Kurf, because I didn't want to put you in the spotlight on that, but I
okay.
could
No, I
tell
love
that
the
last week.
spotlight.
Okay, yeah, I could just tell that last week you were like, yeah, bro, what are you talking about?
I was
Like,
like,
we
God.
already do this.
Well, it doesn't. Like at the end of the day, it was still good content, even if we're talking
My
about the content.
understanding,
That-
my understanding is that
no.
this new, you're just avoiding trying to do the question and answer stream, and
What do you mean?
Came,
I was the one who
came-
instigated it.
I came to the first episode of this.
I'm literally the host.
At the end of the first episode of this, you said,
We're having
okay,
an uprising.
we're going to do questions and answers
Jesus.
at some point. And I was like, okay, let's do it right now. And you said no. And then the second episode, you're like, okay, questions and answers, we're going to do that. And then I said,
It's
okay,
'cause
let's
we're
do it right
doing a
now. And you
show
said
of it.
no. And then now you bring question and answers up
Dude.
in the first 5 minutes of the show. And apparently we're not even doing it today.
We never. No. I questioned on. It was from chat in the live stream. It was a jokey, funny thing. It wasn't
There's
part
like
of the
12
Q&A.
questions here in the document, I might add, that I am currently reading.
Shall I tell you what? Cheers to you for at least fucking looking at it. Fair
And
play,
that's
mate.
all you're gonna get, Boots, is just a virtual cheers.
Good job. GG, well played. Like, seriously, that's sick. I'm impressed. You get
Thank you.
the first ever Lightbringers Gold Star. Thank you very much. Fanfare
do we have
plays.
an-
Is it gonna be an enamel pin? Because if it's enamel pins, I might start reading the document too.
I'm just gonna say I've read
Potentially.
the document every single week you've ever made one, Jebro. So if anyone has an enamel
I'm
pin,
I'm
Teacher's
actually
I'll take
gonna.
lies for 500.
She's going to jail. She's going to jail because she robbed a
it's
bank.
not a lie.
I will test everyone on all of them because I've kept them all. I don't delete them. They're just there. It's going to be a Patreon. It's going to be a Patreon reward for $1 a month. You can see all of the past documents and how messy they are. But they are the Lightbringer Bible. So it's important. It's page 30 of season 2, chapter 2 or whatever. Anyway. So yes, no, it was an important thing to do for Rook to clarify, because sometimes I can ramble and sometimes explain some things in a long way that many people don't understand.
I would also like to point out that I
Become a
read your
therapist.
tweet. I read your tweet about this, and
Yeah.
your tweet about this was also very confusing because the tweet
That's
mentioned a
also
line
fine.
of something. It said something along the lines of, "What can MMOs add?" So it kind of sounded like, "What can
MMOs
other
add?"
MMOs take from Guild Wars 2?" And I
Okay,
got
maybe I
confused.
worded that different. Like, maybe I just did it bad.
How about we figure out the
But like,
topic
I don't
by
care.
talking about
Yeah, let's
the
talk about it.
topic?
I'm good. Is everyone ribbing
We've
me for my
established the
language and how I
confusion and
speak?
the
Then
chaos.
that's fine. I mean, I'll take it. I get it, everyone. I suck at explaining things. I
I
understand.
think we should continue to nitpick for the next 20 minutes at least.
No, listen, this
okay.
is Jebro's little red wagon. And if he wants to load it up with this topic and he wants to pull that little red wagon, we're just going to let him do it. So everybody get on board.
That's true.
And now we're going to talk about things that Guild Wars 2 doesn't have in it, even though some of the things you put on this list, Guild Wars 2 does have an equivalent of. But we're going to talk about theoretically things that Guild Wars 2 does not have an equivalent of that could be taken from other MMOs. All right,
Oh
everybody?
yeah, no.
All right, Jobo, take it away.
Okay, so, well, yeah, I mean, the first thing I've got. So the main games I was thinking about specifically, I don't know why I'm holding a small pair of scissors, but I am. Final Fantasy 14, ESO, Destiny 2, New World, Star Wars, World of Warcraft, Star Trek Online, etc., Lord of the Rings Online, whatever you want. But start thinking about that kind of stuff. Right from the beginning of the game, well, the first thing you do in an MMORPG, before anyone gets cocky, yes, I know you download it, you and create an account. You create a character. Obviously, Guild Wars 2 has character creation. I understand that. Is there anything that other MMORPGs or other character creators have that Guild Wars 2 could include in their character creator? Because it could be, maybe it's not the greatest character creator out there, and there are other things that other places have. I'll give you an example to start, okay? So Bless
please.
Online and other Eastern, I would say, kind of themed MMORPGs tend to sometimes have like a combat video to show you what the combat's like of the class that you're about to select, which is pretty cool because you're like, oh, that's flashy. I like big swords, etc. That's an example. What else could be an example?
Well, we'll just get this moving along, people. But to get that idea and elaborate upon it, I actually really enjoy that concept, and I think it would serve Guild Wars 2 incredibly well. And to take it a step further, not just a trailer for the professions themselves, but also the trailers for the elite specializations. So if you are selecting an elementalist, you could then preview the elite specializations that you have access to. That does bring up an issue, is that Heart of Thorns never finished their trailers. They only did like 3 of them. So I propose that we have a coalition of fan-made trailers that we submit for official documentation of the elite specs for Heart of Thorns.
This is good. I like this.
Period. No
There's a lot of those videos. It's going to take a long time to go through.
I actually do think that would be amazing, because I've had a lot of new players coming in recently who are starting out on whatever core version of the class, and I'll hear from them like, I don't really know if I'm feeling this, and I'm not really sure, like, I'm thinking about maybe making a different character, and I'll say to them, have you looked at the elite specializations? And many of them right off the bat just don't even have an idea that there are elite specializations in the game if they're brand new. They don't understand how that transforms the class, how it opens up new things for the class, and how the class you might end up playing can be radically different from just whatever weapon you happened to have or pick up in the beginning and whatever skills you used on your core class. Like, you can completely change an entire experience of that class with the elite specs. So yeah, I would love to see something like that, where you actually do get a little preview, you get a little tidbit about, like, yeah, this is the class, this is its concept, but there are tons of ways to build it, and at blank level, you'll unlock elite specs, and then it gives you little, like, trailer previews for those too. It'd be so nice.
Okay. Cool. I don't know if we need to talk about much more. Does someone want to add to that if they want to?
Oh, I would say that Final Fantasy also has, during the character creation process, they also have different light boxes that you can try out the different color schemes of your characters, the hues of your character's hair and skin tones and things like that. So they have different light boxes, and they also show examples of, I'm going to say, vanilla endgame armors. So you get the starting armor, you get like a cultural armor, and you get the profession armor, and they also specify, as was said, what role they will be fulfilling. So but it's much more rigid in things like World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy. There's much more structure, and I don't know how Guild Wars 2 would do that with the diversity of builds that are available even with the elite specializations. So it's a bit of a crapshoot.
Yeah.
I think as long as the description is a bit more like a general sense of the profession and the elite specialization, I think that'd be totally fine. Like what we currently have with the professions. I will say it is funny that, like, Elementalist says, like, prefers ranged combat, and they get a dagger for the very first weapon that they get. So there are a little like disparities, which are just kind of comical, which, you know,
they're definitely outdated from when they were first implemented in the game. So a little update to that, and mentioning the elite specs to just give a broad overview of each, like, just a line for each one, you know, and also for the races, maybe added for the races. Just an explanation for new players that what a selection of a race means for the game for them. Like, that there's no really, I mean, you get racial skills, but unlike other MMOs, there's no inherent values that certain races have over others. And all it is it for storyline, basically, that you get the core storyline that's different for each different race. And animations, I guess. But
there are some things that I think I love. Fornex's suggestion of the different light boxes, because I hate when you have a character creator and they don't let you try different light boxes. I always end up having to, like, tweak the character later in 90% of the games. But I think there are also some other interesting things, like ESO. I hear so many people say all the time that they find that character creator frustrating. I have personally always loved it, and I find that I can get some really fun characters if I, like, tweak it really specifically. But some of the things that I really love that they do are that they have kind of separated out all the different types of features. So So you have like your actual skin tone, but then you have like skin textures, and that can include everything from like there's like an age bar where you can look all old and wrinkled, or it can be something where you even just look more sun-beaten, or you have freckles, or you have patterned scars, or you can do like tattoos is their own thing. And then there's also these sort of accessories or adornments that you can choose to add that will show up in addition to other accessories, like a nose piercing or whatever that is. So I really like it because I think that it separates out a lot of things that right now, at least in the Guild Wars 2 character creator, are still kind of smushed together. Like, if I love one face and it has this kind of makeup, but I can't get that kind of makeup on another face that I pick, or if I really like the scars on this particular face template, I can't just have the scars on a different face. So it's one of those things where I honestly think the Guild Wars 2 CC is already really good, but they could separate out a few more of those things, add a few extra bars in. I'd also love it if they added in a couple more for the face, because I think there's like one that's weirdly missing, and I'm trying to remember what it is. Like something to do with like the mouth height. I think it's mouth height. You can't like position the actual height of the mouth. So if you make like a really strong jaw, the mouth is just like still up there and there's nothing you can do about it. So those things I'd like to see them add, but honestly, I think they already have a really good basis, and they've been expanding it each, throughout the lifetime, not just in the cash shop version, but also in the actual core CC like we saw before End of Dragons, which is really good.
I would say that it's good if you pick a human. If you pick a char, it is rubbish.
Yeah. Certain races do feel a little bit more lacking in
everything just bows to the Sylvari.
Wow.
Yeah, Sylvari and human are pretty elaborate in terms of the amount of different elements that you can
if
adjust,
they
and
lamped
also just
in
options.
if they lamped in the makeover kit options into the character creator, they would be much better.
It would, but it still wouldn't like solve the core problem. That it's the same with World of Warcraft. They've actually been quietly updating their graphics of their characters over time, and they've been adding allied races and that kind of thing. But they still have so many things tied in, so that if they just do what Rook said and just separate them out, so you can pick the eyebrows that you want and the eyes that you want, and that kind of mix and match, which I think things like I think more like Black Desert Online gives you such a scope and scale. You can make absolutely beautiful characters, right?
Peak design.
As fugly as you want, whichever side of the kink you fall on. But they could really do separate them out.
That don't give you that power, because it is sometimes, I know we all love to have our fun, but it can be a little like immersion breaking in a way. So I also understand like the respective, like the aesthetic of the game itself.
I agree with you, but at the same time, Guild Wars 2
at this point,
immersion breaking is not an issue.
That ship is sailed.
Was there ever immersioning?
Yeah, we have jumped the shark.
I think immersion was like maybe launch, and then like as soon as the infusions came in, it was like, well, we're over now. Now you can look like a bee.
What I like about Guild Wars 2 though is that I think it is still immersion. The world is kind of wacky. It's stylized. It's a little weird. It has a cheeky streak to it. It has all kinds of, strange hybrids of sci-fi and fantasy. It has stuff that's in there just for pure humor. And so for me, I don't mind, it's like, yes, you can, if you try, you can make yourself look completely ridiculous. But who's to say you couldn't do that in this world anyway? And some people would. So like, it's totally fine with me. Merrick though, I do want to say, brought up in chat something that I really would love as well. Savable character templates. So you could save a preset appearance.
Yeah.
Oh, please and thank you. As it is, I just have to take screenshots of all the sliders. And I know like Final Fantasy 14, for example, Final Fantasy 14 has, pre-saved character templates. So that even if you're just trying to make different versions of that same character to try out different classes or whatever it is, or you've tweaked your character in Black Lion, but you realized a week later that actually you hate what you did and you wish that you still had the same face and everything that you had previously, you can't save it and load back to it. So I'd love to see them do something like that.
And to kind of extend into another aspect of character visuals, wardrobe slots that would actually save depending on the different gear equipments that you load out. I know it's not exactly similar, but in the same vein of having more options to further have more flexibility with your character creation and how you present yourself in game would be nice.
Character creation is like a really so remember when we used to have this conversation about Steam and the average time, I always bring it up in some way, shape or form. So Steam average time for when a gamer will will start playing, wow, I'm there. We'll start playing the game to leaving the game is like average 20 minutes or something silly like that. So character creator would actually be a good fit. If your character creator is solid and you enjoy that stuff, like, you know, you're gonna be playing the game, you're gonna be getting into the game. So if you can hook him in there,
you could spend an hour in the character creator.
Anyone streams here that does that, like for just hours on end, like it literally, chat's probably gonna say something about me doing it right now. Like even if there is a tiny option to do it, it will take me ages because I will be there like bald, don't know, let's change the skin color, you know, I'll just come back round to being bald. And then it's just, you know, basic, you know, the legs okay and everything like that. ESO's, should I tell you what is a really, really good character creator that is possibly 12 years old? I think Merrick's going to probably check me on this one because actually Merrick's playing this as well. Star Trek Online has an amazing character creator. It is so good because you can literally be different Starfleet / well, actually, it can be like pretty much every race. Well, not every race, but a lot of races from the TV series, different generations as well. So you can be like classic Star Trek, you can be like next gen, Discovery, you can be so many different ones, and then some of the races from there as well. But then all of the individual things that you can do, like knee, leg height, leg width, all of these different things. I'm just like, this game is like 2010, man. Like they had like their character creation down and they like rejig graphics and stuff. Yeah, sure, the game is pretty old and dated in a lot of different areas, but like, man, I was like, this is cool. Like the actual characters, old school character creators were actually really, really involved, and like Warhammer Online and stuff as well back in the day. Cool.
That when describing Star Wars, you were trying to describe what you could change in the character creator, and the first thing you went to was knee.
Yeah, I just got an image in my head because I remember doing that. Like,
I also
it was just,
like knee.
I've got an only knees. I've got an only knee. Knee is my obsession body part.
I've noticed that. Knee and chicken nuggets.
Your knees and chicken nuggets. I'm there.
That is the OnlyFans is coming soon.
It's only knees. It's only knees. If you do only knees in chat, there is a command for it.
That does, I think, bring up a good thing that they could consider adding, which, like you said, because you were talking about Star Trek Online.
Yes.
So having all of the different iterations, which I think give you more variation within even a specific race without having to add wholly new races to the game.
Yeah.
This has been a pretty hot topic in Final Fantasy XIV as well, because they do have two branches of basically all the different races. So kind of, you'll see this in other MMOs though, because they'll have, you know, like elves, and then there'll be like forest elves, and then there'll be some other iteration, right? So in, you know, 14, there's an equivalent where you've got your, you know, two different types of Mikote, your two different types of Elizin, those sorts of things. And I think while they have added in to Guild Wars 2 more options that are inspired by the world of Tyria, where, you know, we got some new Canthan sort of styled hairstyles and facial features, or, you know, inspired obviously by real world diversity in peoples, but also things like the Char, where we got those new kind of inspired faces for the Char and stuff. I think they could honestly lean even more wholly into that, because as we were talking about with the Tengu, after seeing what they did with the Tengu and how they envisioned the idea of what species of birds would be, you know, native to these areas. Now let's make entirely different versions of Tengu for that. I would love to see them.
You're touching on something that's probably the most important thing about what they could add to character creation that
Tengu.
I mean, that's not what other games have, is it? No.
Other games do add new
Yes.
new
Well,
races.
yeah, actually, no. Yeah, completely. So, yeah, go off. I mean,
but
that's
I see
one
what
thing.
Rick is saying with within a specific race. And like even with the Mordrum, like the different textures of bark and like the natural elements of Sylvari, I really enjoy that idea. So I would love to see them like expand that as well.
Yeah, have almost entire different branches that you could pick. If they don't want to add new races, right? Why not start doing this almost where for an expansion we get something like you were saying, like Mordrum Sylvari, and you could justify it, you know, post Heart of Thorns, the people reclaimed and magic and they are
good
good
now. More friendly. Like there's a Sylvari who was turned and then at the very end kind of was fine, but there was still a physical change that went through with the Sylvari, and I think it's just really cool.
I love that.
Yeah, I think you could totally
You could have
that.
Flame Legion Char with the aesthetic of the Flame Legion with the fiery limbs and that
literally, had that conversation. Yeah.
And with humans, obviously, because humans are widespread and so diverse, but you could even you could do something really interesting with that, right? You could have like an Elonian faction that were all the Awakened and have them be like undead. You could have, I think that would be so cool. And I think it would also expand out our own immersion and feeling of being connected to the world and the diverse creatures and people and, all the inspiration for the different parts of the world that we see. And they could get really clever with it. They could do fun stuff. I'd love to see more variety as well in the types of big cats that draw inspiration or types of cats that draw inspiration for Char. So that'd be awesome.
I tweeted this the other day and Bobby Stein enjoyed it, but I want a Sphinx Char, like a bald, like kind of squishy Sphinx
goodness
Char.
gracious.
Go bald on there.
I saw that chunker you posted. It was amazing.
It's a unit.
It's so good. I saw it too. This was like a picture Kroof put on, like retweeted on Twitter of this like real chunky Sphinx cat.
Oh, yeah. I saw that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna be meme at the moment. Go on, sorry.
The Coda. We could because there's a lot of spoilers in the chat, that there's a lot of rumors that the Norn and the Codan are one race. What if we could create a Codan character?
Even if they were able to
as a lost tribe of the Norn.
Yes, like if you could, because Norn are already pretty big. I think the head would be the biggest issue.
That's all it is, difference-wise, yeah.
That's the biggest thing. But like the rest of the frame, I think you could keep relatively kind of close to Norn. And then they'd have to figure out what to do with the head model. But that would be amazing, because I have long wanted more with the Codan too. So I'm right there with you, Fornax.
I like them.
And this is kind of the area.
There's a tonic that you can play a Coda, and you can actually play in combat. So they have that pipeline there already, at least. Provisionally. Sorry.
My only issue with the Coda as a playable race, well, I mean, as an extension to the Norn, maybe, yeah. It's just that they, unlike the Tengu, which they, gave a glow up to, the Coda are all almost identical to each other in the way they look right now. For now.
Until you know.
Because the Tengu
it would be interesting if they.
True.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if they do a glow up for them as well, and then have to go back to all of the old maps where the Coda are and change each individually to match the new.
Imagine, I guess we'd get a little close to Pandaria, but can you imagine Panda Coda, like trundling around Canada?
I would love that. And of course, like these are separate races.
Take my money. Take my money.
They are separate races, but with separate races in the game, it often entails like different story instances and whatnot. But if there was this kind of like alliance race feature where you were able to just expand with the same rigging, I think it could be a potential way for them to add quote unquote like new races without actually like fully like going through that process. But I like this. This fever dream is very entertaining to my head.
These are the podcasts that I enjoy the most. Hence why we're doing it.
Can I suggest a law in for all this? Can I suggest a way that they could shoehorn all this in? So, for example, for the Asura, so we've just killed off all the Elder Dragons. We have one Prime Dragon who's doing all the magic filtration system thing for our planet. And now the people who were hiding underground from Primordus, the subterranean Asura could come up and they could look completely different to the ones that came above 100. Yeah. Exactly.
Because it was over 100 years ago, so They'd at least have different accents, right?
And they could have but they could have a completely different culture.
Wow.
They could have a completely different culture, different tribes.
Maybe a bit taller, a
Aesthetics.
bit smaller, a bit wider.
I mean, a bit eviler if possible. No, that's not possible.
Well, they could
Yeah,
theme
we'll
them after like underground creatures, right? Where you get that kind of like pallid complexion and the sort of milky eyes and the
A bit more
they could do
zombie-like.
something like that, like make their eyes like really big and their ears to like catch sounds or something. I don't know. They could do some fun stuff with
Well,
it.
they just need to bring dwarfs
Naked
back,
mole
that's fine.
rat style.
Naked
Even
mole
more,
rat.
Yeah.
Well, we already
even more
do
mole
that.
rat, mole bat, just everything.
Just
I think that would be brilliant. And I mean, they could always, if they really wanted to, tie them to. I hated in World of Warcraft how they did those. They've since changed this in recent times, which is good. But for a long time, you had to do these just exacerbating, super frustrating, dumb rep grinds with all the different factions to unlock whatever the equivalent of that race was, which I guess I understand from kind of a gameplay standpoint, but they were so miserable to do and it took so long. It was a huge fall off point for a lot of players. But if Guild Wars 2 just did something where those races were kind of tied to various expansions, right? You could always just justify it then. If you own the expansion, you could just be, saying, hey, well, if you've played through Heart of Thorns and this version of the Sylvari came from, like the Mordrim version of the Sylvari, right? Came from Heart of Thorns, then we're just going to wave this away as a post Heart of Thorns, these were reclaimed or something like that. And so you could do it with that without having it be tied to rep grinds, have it be something that could either be story bookmarked and then it unlocks for your account from then on out once you've played through Heart of Thorns the first time or something. Or it could just be something where if you own that expansion, you have access to that new branch of, character creation, which I think would be a nice extra perk, especially because they don't do new races for a lot of the expansions. So
Yeah.
That'd
And
be
if they wanted
lovely.
to give more purpose to like mastery points, they could also integrate it into like a more account permanent mastery rather than like a whole reputation grind, as oftentimes masteries are a little bit more accepted by everyone. So
I mean,
there's a
I would
couple routes
love
they could
like
go down.
I would love a story unlock. So the community has been desperate to find out what happened to Malik from the vanilla story, the Sylvari who just appears, who wasn't born of the tree, but just looks like another Sylvari. If you could go on that adventure and go do that story and find out where Malik has come from, or go on that adventure and find out where the new Asura are coming up from, and you could actually like complete story quests and then unlock the ability to customize your character into the new look. So they don't have to touch the story. You get the character customization and everything's kind of, nicely fluffed with not too much hard work.
Now that is something, Fornex, you kind of touched on it there, but that is something that we do not have in Guild Wars 2 and have never had in Guild Wars 2, the ability to change your race after making a character, which
True.
please, I understand why theoretically, because you have the unique core game and all that kind of stuff, but honestly, I think almost every other MMO allows you to, at this point, change the race of your character, or, to change the job or the class of your character as well. So it's one of those things where I'm just kind of like, I think it's time that we do this, even if it just means that it replaces with, I don't know, default options, whatever your core story was or something.
Yeah.
It's not like you can't already replay the entire story at any time on a whim.
Yeah.
So to me, it's just one of those things where setting your core, like that core story, resetting it, I guess maybe there could be some issues with achievements, but again, it's just one of those things for me where I'm going,
Are account wide anyway, so
yeah, they're account wide. Yeah.
You can see. I mean, one thing, I kind of want to push it onto other things because we could sit here talking about this for a long time.
I don't think we could. I think we're at our limit.
No.
We're good to go.
Wow.
I've got things to add.
Oh, do you? So let's hear it. No, that's
Well, no. People were talking about, all different kinds of skins and stuff, and ESO has done a good way. Actually has a really good way of making characters very, very unique. Something that Guild Wars 2 could have, and that's like personalities. So that you can have a personality of your character specifically, which you can change. So, for example, I have a personality for my Khajiit, where he's drunk pretty much the whole time. Like in anything he does, like, you know, he is just drunk. He's sitting there, like his idle animation is just him with a mug, and he's a healer. So he's like a drunken monk kind of thing. And he's just there. But he's also got, I've got an elf. And like the lore behind it, or like the canon I have made up, is that he's a zombie. Like he's been taken over. His Molag Ball has like taken him over. He's like one of his disciples, and he's just kind of this drunken, kind of zombie skinned guy who's got this personality that kind of walks around and just pretends like I just do it sometimes randomly for fun, and just like it's just wicked. Like there's so many different personalities you can have, so that uniqueness of characters is quite special. Honestly, it's just very, very cool, and that's one way you can get around some bits in character creation by giving personality, also mixing that with a skin, and then mixing it with other things like mementos and stuff like that, where you have your very unique animation which you can just pull all these different little tiny things together to create your character in a more wholesome way, which is it's really good. So honestly, very cool.
I will say, making the old fisherman boots it was difficult to make my character look old in Guild Wars 2.
Yeah, because it's like a young face and then like white hair, and the beard, which is like
faces are young basically,
and the beard look on the humans just looks like, you know, a 12-year-old's grown facial hair.
Well, yeah, if they upped some of those different options, and then you had something like an aged personality. I'm glad you brought up personalities, Jebro, because they are one of my favorite things as far as character customization goes in ESO. They're really great. There's some that you can get in game. There's a lot you can pick up from the store. Honestly, I think they could make even more of these. Some of them even change the actual base animations of emotes that you do. So if you are if you have the mage personality on or whatever, a couple of the emotes that you do will have a more magical effect to them, or you'll use magic when you do the emote and stuff, which is very cool. And it really does add that extra layer to a character that I haven't actually seen pulled off in any other MMO. And I think Guild Wars 2 could do a really cool job with that, with having that kind of personality default animation override.
And they've got like loads of new emotes that they're putting into the game. I mean, maybe we can push. I'm trying to think where I can link this in now to something else, because I feel like it might be necessary. But you can, there is loads of stuff, you know, they're coming out with different emotes, you know, the shiver emotes, all the different ones you can sit on chairs now, different things. And I'm sure this is something they can think about, but then you've got to think about implementation. And I think ESO is very unique in its the wheel that you can access, and then you can kind of have those different options of going out to get a potion or get food and then equipping a memento or skin or whatever, and it's even more detailed now. It's pretty good. Using ESO as an example for things, ESO definitely has its other side of not doing things too well in different areas, but so do all games. So we're not just like harking on ESO as like the best MMORPG out there, just in case you're thinking, hey guys, let's talk about Guild Wars 2 as well. But we're talking about things we can add. Very cool thing. I'm going to push us on. There's something actually, like, funnily enough, from ESO, just like a community goal. And actually, Kroof reminded me of this. I think it was last week or the week before, talking about the boss rush. As something you didn't see. I do remember stuff. Like, you know.
Apparently, I did not.
This is part of my job. Fortunately, I don't always remember stuff, but like with clients and stuff like this, it's okay. But ESO has like a community event, so I think they had one just recently. I'm not sure if it's still going, I can't remember. But you basically push to get a goal completed. Oh, in ESO, it is a tourist achievement. You have to go around all the basic, like all the main POIs of a map as a community, and so many people have to do it to get this kind of bar filled. And once it gets filled, everyone in the community gets a house, or everyone in the community gets a mount, or everyone in the community gets X skin, or whatever, which is very cool. And then I was thinking about what Kroof said with the boss rush event, and how it was just a kind of this once or twice, I think maximum thing, maybe two, I can't remember. And how we don't really have those community push events. I think other games do. I don't know if Final Fantasy 14 does, I can't remember. I think Star Trek Online did a couple of times, but I really like that specific thing because it felt very interactive. It was like they had drops on, they were like, yeah, let's rally together and just run around this zone was the first thing I did. I jumped on stream. I was like, yeah, cool. This is a really engaging, fun thing to do. Everyone's just kind of running around, but in the new zone as well. So it was the brand new zone with the chapter this year. So I don't know, like community kind of push events. Guild Wars 2, would that be suited to Guild Wars 2?
Guild Wars 2 does them and has done them.
What
So
events?
Yeah, Jebro.
What
Yeah,
events?
Jebro.
Well, I mean, it's done. It doesn't continue
Whoa.
to do them. Go on then.
Well,
I
Which
mean,
one?
we've had the boss rushes. We've
We've had one of them. I would like
I mean,
to.
they
like-
do the extra life events. They've done, I mean, they do a variety of things where we have done it. Now, I understand in what you're saying in that the scale is maybe not as large. Like in ESO, they do these really big events and they usually pair them with some kind of like very visible kind of campaign, right? Where they're doing streams or they have devs doing stuff and then they have these community goals where they unlock various tiers of very cool rewards. So even in chat, we saw the mention of the Sijig house. They released an entire massive player mansion that if the community was able to do all this stuff together and do all these types of activities and game together and fill up all the bars, then everybody would get this huge reward. So the scale in ESO is definitely bigger, and I think they run them more frequently. But we have seen Guild Wars 2, I think, encourage players to do different types of things, you know, like do this kind of content or do these things and, you know, reach certain community goals. I think in the past that the rewards just haven't been super good. If I remember correctly.
Maybe that's because now World v World has been coming up in my mind as well. I guess maybe when I think about the events, I don't think them on as them like I think Extra Life is very different, because it's charity based. It's kind of like you're still funding and paying for it. It's more of a very specific thing as charity. I don't feel like that's the same. But the World v World stuff, Boss Rush, definitely. And the World v World stuff as well, you know, when they had seasons back in the day, I would say that's kind of community focused as well. But they just don't have them consistently, I think, sometimes. There's no like, you know, this is going to happen this year. We kind of think that, you know, every so often. Festivals
the
are
festivals
different.
kind of fall in their own category.
Yeah.
I guess so.
These felt a little different, and I always remember them being very easy to accomplish, and that it was pretty. I don't know. The rewards were not. I think that was maybe an issue. Like the rewards weren't as
Maybe it was
enticing for the entire community. And I loved the World Boss Rush. I think it was really cool because you got like more XP, more currency, and all that stuff, which is very useful for newer players. But did we ever have like a raid rush? Or like a strike mission rush? Like I'm really interested in like prospect of like bringing that to endgame where for like that week, all of the raids reset daily. So like you're able to catch up with legendary armor and just get all of your insights and like provisioner tokens that you need. And then maybe at the very end, if the community kills like X number of bosses all together, you can unlock a mount by purchasing it with magnetite shards or something like.
Yeah.
The idea of like funneling people into perhaps game modes that have been a little bit quiet, maybe that could be like one way to like push people into it and like also show them all of the improvements with like the emboldened system, fractal instability changes, general strike mission changes and all that stuff. But I love the concept of community events, and I would love to see them expanded a little bit more. Because it's just like nice to visually see and like be like, oh, there's a big thing going.
So maybe the implementation, because I was technically kind of wrong, like, you know, as Rick and you're pointing out, like I'm technically kind of wrong, but the implementation maybe be the difference there, have the addition to Guild Wars 2. There you go, I'll switch it up. Like rather than the event completely, because I think there is that idea that, you know, you don't know sometimes, which is, you know, part of Guild Wars 2's problem, that they don't communicate what the fuck is going on in their game to the players that play it sometimes. And, you know, so that's kind of just that concern, which is, you know, always been something specific, I guess.
So yeah, obviously we've had things like it, but more would be nice. It's true. More would be nice. Like bring back the Ellen Keel vote, because like we talked about last time.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Like we talked about last time, she's been in power for too long. I think it's time for another election.
Yeah, like how many years is that? That's like longer than presidents. That's longer than prime ministers now.
Did
like,
they
well
didn't
over 8
specify
years.
that was a lifetime appointment, and I don't think I would. I mean, I did vote for Ellen Keel, but I don't know if I would necessarily vote for her.
How
And
dare
If I had
you?
known it was a
sir.
lifetime appointment.
Ellen Keel has been like leaving Lion's Arch more often than Evan Nashblade. So like, I don't know. Maybe is that the duty of like the leader of Lion's Arch to go out on expeditions
It
and
is the
missions?
duty.
I don't know.
Is it a duty?
Or
That's
is
the
it
thing.
for them to lead from base, like Logan Thackeray and the Pact?
Okay, cool. So we've done community event. Good point.
I will say,
Thank you.
I will say,
Uh-oh.
they definitely need to do something in between the lulls of content release. So if this could be filler content to just get people interested
what
and
it
keep
is,
people's
yeah.
interest in the game, just do it. Yeah, I mean, giveaways, twitchy, streamy things, and the like. Sorry, Rook.
No, why are you apologizing? I had a thought. You were already talking.
I'm sorry that you're putting your finger on your chin.
I'm British. I'm British. We apologize on reflex. Carry on, dear.
No,
Wow.
you're great. I love
That's
hearing
where we
what you
get
have
it
to say.
from.
Oh,
I'm from London, so it don't happen as much.
no, I was thinking about something that, as I look over the list, I want to make sure that there's not something else. It's kind of tied to community events, though.
Okay.
So I don't know how I actually feel about this, so I'm curious to hear what you all think about it, because
Ooh.
I've been on the fence, but I do think I like it, but I don't know for sure.
You don't know if
I
you
don't know.
like being on the fence or you like the idea.
This idea that
Okay.
I've seen recently in a game. So Destiny 2 has started doing this thing where for their like limited seasons, as it were, right? You have whatever activities, and then they have the achievements for that content, whatever it is. So if you play over the course of that season and you achieve those achievements during it, you then get the option to buy IRL merch that is unlocked only if you have gotten that achievement. So you do this achievement and you get and you can buy from a store a model replica of this gun or this thing that's significant to the achievement or whatever it is. And then you have the option to pay real money because you earned the achievement in game to then get that reward, that badge.
Wait, is that on the
that
season
sticker,
pass? Is that completing the season pass itself?
I think it's just part of Destiny 2, as far as I understand. I have some friends that like buy this stuff. There'll be like
Interesting.
cool limited items or unique things or whatever it is. And
Green statue.
yeah, like if you earn it, then you can get it. You can like buy it and have that as an IRL achievement in your house. So while I don't necessarily, I feel so on the fence about it myself, because part of me is like, hey, play our game so that you can unlock the opportunity to spend more money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But another part of me knows that people really enjoy that, and that I do feel like sometimes there are huge achievements that you achieve in a game, but they feel very intangible. So it would be nice to have like a trophy of whatever thing you achieved,
But also I feel like a lot of those people it might be worth it on the resale. If it's limited achievements like that, you spend,
investment.
$30 to buy
Yeah,
whatever
I mean-
trophy it is after getting the achievement. And then there's probably some people who are very interested in collectibles. I know a few who would then pay you $90 for that $30 thing that you bought.
There you go, Boots will pay you. Boots is saying that they will.
That's not.
Oh no, you won't. Okay. I think personally, when you initially said it, I was like, ooh, I didn't know that. So now I'm gonna go check, and I'm gonna be like, cool. I don't think I'm gonna be able to get that because I think I'm a bit late in the day now, getting to it. But another part of me is like, kind of. Like my skin kind of crawled as well, because I was like, at the same time I was like, ooh, money, ooh, access, and ooh, time. And then it was like, I'm not sure if I like that. But if the merch was something that wasn't like, special enough to make people feel not excluded from the thing, then it could work, and that could be quite cool. I also not sure about the money. Now, if they had tied it to charity or something like that, that would be very cool, and I would do that for sure.
I think money is
Yeah.
by default an excluding factor. like collectible editions, like collector's editions being priced at like $150, $200. So
Yeah.
I don't think
It's not like that different.
much. It is definitely different from the player's perspective because I actually never heard of that system. And that's actually a really cool concept because, as you were saying, a lot of these things are intangible because they're online, and having a physical representation of it would be pretty cool. But it's like, I don't know, I feel like it's uncharted territory because it's like, I've never ever thought of that.
Yeah,
So
I guess the
Guild Wars
question
2
is,
handle that.
I guess the question is, compare buying that merch, let's call it merch for now, achievable merch. Compare buying that to merch that isn't locked behind an achievement. Is one worse than another?
It depends on how difficult that achievement is.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
I don't know the achievement, so I can't. I play the game now. Really. Well, I did my first raid. I did my first raid with the Rook Peeps on Monday. It was very cool.
Yeah, because I'll go ahead and say I don't think the fact that it costs money outside of the game is problematic because you get an achievement in the game. It's an out of the game thing that you're trying to buy with money.
Yeah,
they're two different things, right?
Well, it's linked. Well, the achievement is linked to the thing.
You have to complete the achievement within the season.
Right, but you don't have to buy the thing even if you completed the achievement.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to buy it.
So they're forcing you to swipe that credit card.
It's just outside the game merch that you may want to buy or you may
Can you
not.
imagine that? You played the game up
show
to
up at
this
your
point.
door.
You must
They're like,
buy this thing.
Hey, Boots.
They just
50%
deliver
tip?
it to you. Yeah, they just do that thing. They deliver it to you, and they're like, "Yeah, we're taking you to court."
Yeah,
That's
it's just
Destiny
another
Court.
way for the game company to make money, which is something all game companies try to do. But in fact, it's more limiting to them too, right? Like they're going to make less money because of the fact that it's hidden behind an achievement.
Depends on how many they have to produce, because obviously, like, how many do you have to produce in one go, in one batch, before it becomes unprofitable? And then is it like, oh, we're making so much money, it's just a cool extra thing, it doesn't matter if it's profitable anyway? So it's like, there's all these questions. It's very interesting. I did not know that. Thank you for that bit of information. I kind of, I just have those two different varying feelings.
I think we're all
I'm
on the
like,
fence
"Oh,
about this.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
I have my
right.
light bulb. I have my light bulb out because I have a solution.
Oh,
I have formulated a solution. So what I would do is I would, to kind of make it less horrific late stage capitalism, I would.
thank you.
You're quite all right.
Appreciate that.
I'm here to help. I would make it so they have a lot of internal art that they do. So you could have the community fulfill a certain set of criteria, and it unlocks some online wallpapers and screens for your computer for everybody, for the entire community, gratis, free of charge. New art, new behind the scenes art, new concept art. And then you can also put prints of the art for people who want to purchase it and have a charity element linked to that, so that you can purchasing these would help insert specific charity. So the community gets something gratis that is virtual, so there's no cost specifically other than putting it on the website and hosting the image. And they can also have money and revenue from the art sales. Less horrific.
Yeah, I like this whole charity angle. I think for Guild Wars 2 that would work really well with like Extra Life or something as well. That actually would be like a genuinely pretty cool thing.
And you're going to know they're sort of sat on loads of art, right? They're squirreled it away somewhere. I mean...
Yeah. Oh, no,
Maybe,
yeah, absolutely.
if it's not already up on the art station.
You can win it at, like, you know, if you go to their things. I've got literally a piece of art there, which I won from one of their events, and it's just sitting on my wall. I've never seen before. So I was like, yeah, they're definitely have. Cool. Okay, yes, I like that addition. We're gonna push on. We've done the community thingamajig events stuffs. Okay. I had companions. I know Guild Wars had companions. ESO specifically obviously has companions now as well. Like when I say Guild Wars,
henchmen?
I'm talking about henchmen, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it's not really the same. Yeah, it's not really the same. But like a little kind of, or like people that kind of follow up. I'm not sure. I don't think Final Fantasy X has them. they have companions? I don't think so. I'm not later in the game, so with Final Fantasy 14, I'm always questioning whether or not these things have been introduced, and I'm just like, But like for solo players, and we were talking about this last week, you know, how MMORPGs are changing from this it can be a very solo experience. Our companion's a thing that, you know, players could have. Like, and if people don't know what a companion is, if you've played Skyrim or you've played Elder Scrolls Online, for example, you have this person who kind of wanders around with you. They do a bit of damage, they do a bit of healing, they might tank, they might do different roles. They actually go into dungeons with you and fill out the actual person's role in a dungeon as AI. Also, they do that in Trials, which is their version of raids. So you can technically go into a dungeon and you can have two of you with two AI characters, and you can probably do it pretty easily. But yeah, I'm just wondering, is that like anything that is needed in Guild Wars 2? Would it be a fun thing? Or is it just like, no,
personally, I don't think Guild Wars 2 isn't designed to need it. If it comes to a point in the future where the population drops off significantly, maybe they'll introduce it, but
let's hope that avoids it.
Well, I would argue that though, because I think there has been a notorious stumbling block in the game in Heart of Thorns. A lot of players who are, you know, new or fresh to the game, especially now that there's not a wait time, right? Like you're going to jump straight into Heart of Thorns as you complete the living seasons and everything. A lot of players do notice that there's a massive difficulty gap for them in survivability and being able to explore the maps and things like that. As well as I think sometimes players may be having a bit of difficulty. Now, I myself was, you know, I've gotten through, I think, all of the story instances fine, even when I've been solo, although it definitely can help if you have groups. But I have noticed that sometimes I have heard people that for whatever reason get to some kind of story beat and are just stuck on it and stuck on it and stuck on it. And they just stop because they're like, I just can't get through this instance. And maybe that is just that they're missing a fundamental mechanic. Of course, you know, looking it up or trying to see if you can get people to go with you can be a big help. But I do think that something like companions helps empower, just like we were talking about recently, this new wave and or the possible future of MMOs, the idea of a world in which you can play together, but you can also choose to adventure alone. So I think it could be a really good addition. One of the things that I do like about these companions in ESO and even in Guild Wars 1, they had their own little stories, their own little side quest, personality. You can equip them with different things and kind of set their abilities to complement your play style.
And you level them up as well in ESO, right? So you level them up and you pick their skills. It's like having a little Tamagotchi. Like, do you remember those? I was like, because I'm not massively into companions in ESO, but when I get into it, like I get into it, and you're right, there's like an entire storyline that comes with a new chapter, and they introduce these new ones. Sorry, I mean to interrupt, but yeah, it is pretty cool. Yeah, sorry, continue. Love them. They're good stuff.
I mean, I do agree with Boots that it's not necessarily a necessity at this point, because there
What
are
if you could have a naked
ways...
Farron?
Oh, okay. Well, no, it's a necessity.
I have that in real life. I have that in real life.
You have a naked Farron? Oh, yeah. Fine.
One thing that would make this really hard.
Do you have to blow it? Yeah, I was going to say.
One thing that would make this really hard is the fact that Guild Wars 2 has massive scale open world content on a level that most other games don't. And so I do think that would make a lot of these meta events, it would destroy balance. It would destroy, you know what I mean? If everybody had a companion with them. So I think there would have to be some limitations, and how exactly they would do that, I don't know. You know what I mean?
I think if they kept it to story instances and dungeons, it would probably be
dungeons wouldn't be so bad,
perfectly fine. And there actually are old chat codes where they were originally designing henchmen for Guild Wars 2, but they kind of dropped it. And surprisingly, like if you think about the Jade bot, it was almost a henchman in a way, because it was going to be a permanent feature that had like abilities and did things, but then it was kind of taken in a different direction to just give you buffs. And I kind of enjoy the idea of having henchmen more than just a Jade bot that just gives you a buff, because there is a bit more player agency and choice over like choosing a henchman and maybe equipping it with certain skills. And I think for dungeons and story missions, it would be nice to be able to go back and do that content without feeling like, oh, well, I know I can't solo this dungeon, but I want to go and collect stuff for maybe armor pieces and whatnot. So if they were to test it in any place, probably say dungeons.
You know what? There is, okay, so although I think it's not necessary in the game, dungeons and story steps where people get stuck on, currently in the game, you have NPCs that follow you along on story missions and follow you along in some dungeons that help, quote unquote.
They might resurrect you.
Blinking twice and then just casting one ether bolt every 5 seconds.
And then they go stand in the fire and fucking die. They do not help. They do not help.
Right. So if they could make those better or like maybe just a checkbox option where that says, hey, actually help me out this time, please.
And they actually updated Marjorie.
I feel like that should be baked into the game.
So they could do that, but honestly, I think that the Tamagotchi-ness of henchmen's is an added little bonus to the idea of henchmen's over just the NPCs actually helping you out a little bit better in the missions.
It's about customization, right? And like just those extra fiddly little bits that you can do. It's like we were talking about with personalities and stuff. It's just that extra little bit of like if you've got a choice of companions as well, like and they start to grow after a while. It's just another way of, you know, making your character feel very unique as well, which I think is kind of makes that experience special. It does help people to a degree get through content, but I think a lot of the time it's like, yeah, I would like, if they're going to be, they have to be useful and good and well done, but like, you know, I think ESO has a nice little balance. I really like selecting abilities because like there's different classes as well you can have, and dependent on weapons, obviously, because in ESO you can like, you know, have a healer just because you put healing stuff on them, for example. You know, it's like quite cool. So if you wanted to just do damage and you're worried about like something coming up and CCing you or doing a ton of damage on you, you can send in like your companion can go and attack and tank like it's a pet basically, and then you just do the damage you want to do. So it can be it can change the way you play specifically, especially if you're someone who isn't into like kiting or, you know, is worried about taking damage and stuff. You can just sit back and like, you know, just bash away basically. So new players and experienced players will feel a little bit stronger.
He gets my vote. I'm sure that they could think of some technology to kind of mitigate it for like world bosses. Like it's like miniatures disappear when the map gets, just turn them off when it's a world boss, or when you go into the area of a world boss, they'll see ya and off they go. You know, but I'm anything that makes the game easier for new players to get into and adds a bit of interest and fun elements. So you could have a tank, or you could have a DPS, or if you want to actually play a healer leveling, then you get a tank.
That would have changed my experience. Oh my gosh, I actually leveled a healer, my first character. I played him as a healer. It was excruciating. For it actually opened my mind.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, because those roles do exist in the game now at like during metas, in raids, etc. And the game teaches you that they shouldn't exist when you're leveling. You know, it teaches you. You don't need any healing, or it teaches you don't need any.
It's like you don't need anything until you get to Heart of Thorns. Yeah. Then we suddenly take the game seriously.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna push this on to another thing. Okay. I'm gonna go past what Guild Wars 1 features could be in Guild Wars 2. That's actually the first podcast I ever did. I actually forgot I actually did that podcast. It was the first ever episode. Might revisit that. I want to bring in housing because it's an important thing, because it's a big thing. I think out of anything, it's probably the biggest feature in Guild Wars 2 that would just catapult the game into people like all about that. Animation is so smooth as well. I really like that. It's all about. It's not just about the money though as well. But it is, I know, obviously longevity wise, but you were talking, Fornax, earlier about keeping players engaged between patches. Housing is literally one of the best ways of doing that, because you don't have to promote it for a start. I mean, you can obviously say, you know, you can build your house and there's loads of new stuff, la la la. But like it's there, it's always there, and it's always something you can always customize. You can make very specific to yourself. You can have it as part of a guild, part of yourself. Like, it's another extension to your character. It could offer you different buffs and boons and stuff maybe outside in the world, which, very many different games have these things. So like, I'm going to give you an example of housing. I know I always talk about ESO housing, but I actually really like this feature in New World, which is basically you can craft a furnishing which gives you bonuses out in the world in open world combat and gathering and crafting. So you can get a bonus to gathering. For example, you might be able to get an extra thing, or in combat you can do a little bit of extra power damage. You can get these different buffs and stuff, which is so cool, and it really incentivizes crafting, or at least engaging in the trading post, and also just the whole system as one thing, because you're just like, oh, if I can get a little bit of a bonus, we're gonna do it. We min-max, that's what we do as MMORPG players, and it's crafting as well, So you can buy these things off the trading post, you can get them with your friends. Really Geek made a bunch of them for a ton of guildies, and we've just got these things hanging on the wall so you can see them, and you can be like, yeah, you've got bonus to power and all this kind of stuff. But that's just one tiny thing, because there's just so much other stuff that you can do with housing. So housing, good, yeah. Guild Wars 2, do we need housing in Guild Wars 2?
I mean, clearly we don't, because we don't have it, but...
True, it's a want.
It's a definite want.
We
100%. We have guild halls, but those are tied to guilds.
Yeah.
We have the personal instance, but that's kind of... It's just basically a section of a map that is filled with nodes. Yeah. And then we have, like Arborstone and stuff. So that's a little bit more personal, but it's also still a shared area, right?
Yeah.
It's basically a player hub again. Yeah, it would be nice to have something that's just your own, and that's not just a generic section of a map that's full of nodes.
And you would store your henchmen there.
Yeah.
That would be fun. I think adding housing could revitalize and re-energize every single game type. They could have loot specific to the vanilla game, and you can only get it in the vanilla game. Loot specific to Heart of Thorns, loot specific to War v World and PvP and raids and fractals, and collections, and loot specific to when you craft a legendary, something legendary happens in your house. For example,
I like that.
So with the
That's
artifacts weapon system in World of Warcraft, you go to an artifact hall, and there'd be like a row of the weapon skins that you collected, and they'd be there sort of.
Really? Wait, that's not in your house? Wait, what's the place you're talking about?
So that's World of Warcraft,
Oh,
and that
really?
is in the order halls, in your artifact weapons. So
Yeah.
they display all the different ones that you'd managed to collect doing all the different achievements.
That's cool.
So you could have like trophy rooms and achievement things and specific decorations, and of course they can make a shit ton of money from the gem store by having seasonal items. And I mean, I really would want a better balance than they have with mount skins. There must be things in game that you can get the majority of which, I think. But
I really like that. Yeah.
Horses.
Horses?
I'm not I speak for those who do not need or really want player housing.
Okay.
But I do understand that for the sake of a game's longevity and just with the culture of what people like right now, it's like a lot of customization, a lot of
We'll get you into it, Criff.
player housing where you can kind of build your own establishment and hide and store away and show off if you want all of your achievements. And that idea has progressively grown on me.
Yeah.
So it's not something where I necessarily want it, because Guild Wars 2 is already like super fractured in all of its instances. And I do enjoy seeing like populated maps and whatnot, because it keeps your attention. You're like, oh, maybe I'll go do this event. But I think at this point in the gaming culture, personal housing is probably the best strategy to go down for
It's just so
gem
good.
slayers and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it would make them a bunch of money as well if they sold
lot of money.
Yeah, they would. I mean, ESO, like, I still like ESO's crown store is awful. The stuff is so expensive. It's really terrible, but people pay the money. They really do. They pay so much money for a fucking chair. And I'm just like, how? Or even a house. I'm not talking about like $20, like for a house, right? You can earn some of these things. It's like, you know, it's like a mortgage time, you know, sorry. But like, it is literally like, it could be $150 for a flipping house. And you're like, what? Why? But then obviously there's different ways to gain these, and you know, I realize, but it's time and it takes a while. But it's like, damn, man, like people would spend money, like even if they just put it on for a fraction, they would spend money, they would buy that stuff. People buy skins for things, you know, they would do it. It would just be a good way to make money, honestly, as well for the game.
What about going one more than just a house? Final Fantasy brought in, I think it's you get your own island that you develop over a period of time, and you could do farming there, and you can and you develop it. So if they kind of mash those two features together, because at the moment they have housing which is separate, and your house which is and the island which is separate, and you can't really necessarily customize the island as much as you can at all. It has a kind of like a set path progression. Think about like how we do the guild hall, whereby you can update it, and that's it. You can't really mess about with it. And if you have like a hybrid version of that, where we have an island with a commander, you've won the war, you've saved the world. Here, go on holiday, have an island, and you like develop your own little island kingdom with your house on it, and it could integrate crafting and all the elements of the game that are kind of needing some love.
You know what island's nice this time of year? Floor Island.
But you could use themed islands from the game.
Oh,
that would
like
be fun.
Rebuild it after the destruction of Zaitan. I mean,
that could be a cool Guild Wars 2 guild hall.
I mean, honestly, we've talked about it a lot, and the guild hall system, I really do feel like while the guild halls are beautiful, and I don't want to discredit the work that's gone into them, like we've talked about, right? I just don't think that development time is the best spent. I do think that the teams that are working on something like that should be working on that feature, but in a way that is accessible to every single player, right? So even if they truly put in something like flexible scaling for these guild halls so that they could either be owned by a guild and you could wrap banners and stuff, or you as an individual could capture and have them. And then if they started releasing, you know, sets of smaller scale ones so that you could, you know, either work for the big ones or the smaller ones or whatever kind of worked for you in that regard, and rescaled some of the build up. Because the new Island Sanctuary stuff that they did in Final Fantasy was really fun. It's kind of bare bones as it is right now, in that, like Fornax was saying, it's a very set progression. So there's not a lot of customization options. It's not like you can free place things. There are like specific plots of land that you uncover and over time can kind of like place different buildings on. And there's, you know, cute little animal capture game, and you can get some things and grow them for crops. So it's a good starting point. And I think they were really trying to emulate something like Stardew Valley or these farm sims that are so popular, Harvest Moon. You know, there are so many of them, Animal Crossing, right? Where people really enjoy that kind of relaxed, customizable content where they can feel like they have a little corner of the world to themselves. So I would really love to see them transform this guild hall shenanigan into something like housing, because I think that longer term, that's going to be a larger draw for players that are interested in this game. You're going to see more of it out there in the world. And the halls that they have are gorgeous. And I honestly love the progression and build up system and all that kind of stuff, because I'm a sucker for that. I love upgrading places. I love repairing ruins. I love those sorts of things. But as it is right now, such a small fraction of the player base really is going to engage with that. And so many people are going to be dissuaded from engaging with it even if they manage to capture one of the guild halls, because the upgrade process is so long and time and resource invested. So, and then on top of that, there's not that many furnishing items, and you have to also level scribe, and it's a whole other thing, right? So I want to see them tear down all those walls. I want to see them just start to really develop this into a feature that's accessible for people. They have all the foundation work. Wow, look at me with all these housing puns. They have all the foundation work, you know? But it's just one of those things where right now it is it's a cool thing that's in the game, but it is not like a selling point feature of the game. And more the MMO community is looking for personal housing in their games. Some people won't engage with it, don't care about it, that's fine. But it really is, I think, for the genre becoming a kind of foundational feature that we're seeing more and more.
It's an expected, it's almost like, it's just like with MMOs now, it's on that list, right? Different classes, open world, dungeons, raids, whatever, and then housing is just one of those things where a lot of people do. You're right.
And even as someone who's not into decorating, there are systems in the guild hall that they could translate into personal housing, like the portals, where it will take you to like a world boss, or take you to the fractals, or a dungeon and a raid and all that stuff. So I think even for people who aren't big on the decoration side of player housing, I think there are still certain elements that I and others would find benefit from too.
I mean, like if you think about, so you're playing a game with your friends, you might not necessarily like be great at combat, be great at raids and dungeons and stuff, but you want to share in the experience of being in that world with someone else because, you know, they love it and you do like it, but it's difficult for you to engage in things like combat and everything like that. You can find it's just another way of having a different player base in the game, honestly. It's just, it opens up so many new people to come and play the game. Like, you know, Rift back in the day, we had a guild, and there was someone in our guild who basically went on TV, went at the time, I guess, there was a TV show, but then it was also a stream, and they would literally just like go around people's houses and do tours, like just tour people's houses on stream, and it would be like a weekly stream that you know they did in the community, and be like, how cool is that? It's like Cribs back in the day, like on MTV, and just like taking people around. This is my beer room or whatever. But it was so cool. And you just like try and get all these different things from like raids. You can get different things like, you know, chairs, like specific things like patterns. And you'd be like, now we can build this thing that shows off the, yeah, sure. In Guild Wars 2, we got this statue that says we killed this boss, but no one really gives an F. Like, it's like if you've got this table and chairs that you've crafted because you got the materials from this raid, it's like all kind of connects, and it's just so, I don't know, there's just a lot to it. And it really, when you go and look at housing, like there's so many massive streamers. A good friend of mine, Ninja,
Your friend
Ninja Monkey.
Ninja?
No, his name's Ninja Monkey.
Wow, I did not see that one coming.
He just does.
That's very different.
Sorry. Yeah, no, Ninja would have been very random. Suddenly switches from, I know he does like, you know, Fortnite and stuff and then plays Final Fantasy 11 or whatever, but like that would be a real big jump. Like ESO housing. But like my friend, like Ninja Monkey does just housing streams, and he will show you how he puts these gems and stuff together in ways where you can, because of the mod system, you can like take away collision, for example, and you can fit different items together to make them look like different things. Like people have created like Castle Grayskull from He-Man and stuff, and then it becomes this art projects almost, where you're creating scenes, you're creating, you know, things in the game maybe that people can visit and be like, wow, this is so cool. Like I remember someone created like a Terminator and stuff in ESO. I'm just like, what? And like, how long would it have taken for them to do that? That is a person in the game spending hours upon hours doing this, and it's not just a couple of people, it's a shit ton of people. They just love creating stuff, you know, and they can do it in the game. So it's just,
you do it in guild halls. Like, there's a lot of a lot of projects like that. No, I mean, I've okay, all right.
It's very limited. It's very.
I mean, it's cool what they do, but
I'm not saying what they do isn't cool. I'm saying that
wow,
it
Jebro,
is
I can't believe you
very
just said
limited.
that.
I'm definitely not saying that. They're very talented, but
But you're right. It is
very
limited compared to some things like, for example, Fallout 76, which is an
Fallout
MMO.
4, the settlement. Oh,
Well, that's not an
Stardew
MMO
Valley.
though. But Fallout 76 is technically an MMO.
oh sheesh.
Where
That was the group.
yeah, Fallout, Stardew Valley, or Minecraft.
Yeah, but we're talking live service games as well. Technically, Fallout 4 was.
Yeah, but Fallout 76 is a MMO
Yes.
where I want to say the point of it is to make player
Absolutely.
housing.
Yeah, settlement building is exactly the same as it is on Fallout 4. It's fucking amazing. I love
Jebro's
settlement
just
building.
not going to give you that Fallout 76.
No,
boost.
I am. I've got Fallout 76. No, it's exactly the same though. It is the
But
same.
Fallout
I'm just
4
saying.
isn't. Yeah, that's not an MMO though. Fallout 4, right?
No. But yeah, like I'm just saying,
alright.
like it's the same system. That's all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't know you played Fallout 76.
No,
much.
I don't.
Oh,
I do
what?
not.
How do you know it's good
I
then?
played Fallout 4, but I know I've seen things about Fallout 76. I do play Fallout 4.
It is the so
Destroying
now,
me.
so
You
now I
tried
can't
for
tell you.
so long to make your point about Fallout 76.
Look.
Jebro won't stop harping on Fallout 4, and then you turn around and you're like, "Yeah, I never even played."
Yeah, no, I don't know that game
I
is.
played Fallout 4 though.
But it's the same system, so it's okay.
It's the same system.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. We're all friends now. It's okay.
The point
There's
is,
a
I'm
quality
trying
system.
so hard to relate things to MMOs, and it's tough.
It's good. No, I mean, Fallout 76, whatever the ridiculous release and everything else with that, right? I think it does go to show that whether or not you are skinning your farm sim / sort of resource hoarding, upgrading, personalization game, whether you're skinning it in like an end of the world hardcore apocalypse or a super cute little adorable seaside town, there is a player base that wants that and wants to enjoy it, and MMOs are an excellent medium for it because you
get to
can
show it off.
Mhm.
Exactly. Okay.
I would add another element, Ishgardian restoration. So in Final Fantasy, there's a whole civilization has been at war for an inordinate period of time, and the city has been systematically destroyed over generations. And the player base comes together. I literally physically came together, all the crafters, to rebuild an entire district and open up a new housing section for players to purchase new housing in. And there are so many areas in the old world and vanilla that could be restored to their former glory, that players could feel like they have agency. They could put the use of crafting to play. They could have stories related to it. And then as a community, as a push, we could open up housing in that capacity so that it's genuinely vested in the world, in the story, and it's kind of evergreen content, is my thoughts.
A living, breathing world.
Where you can build houses. Yeah, I like it. Okay, we're gonna shifty. We could do an entire podcast on that, I believe, but I will move it. Now, sailing boats, I know we have fishing and we have skiffs. I still go back to something we talked about ages ago when we were talking about battles. Like, you know, and my idea for this was Arcade, and I do remember talking about the crafting of the ship and the boat specifically being one of my favorite things. But in Arcade, so if you've never played Arcade before, Arcade was basically probably the best MMORPG that got fucked over the most by its developers and publishers because they just wanted to make money. If they didn't mess people over with some of the systems, it probably would be genuinely one of the best MMORPGs ever released because the systems in that game are so good with housing and so good with things like ships and just the world being this one thing that you just wander around and you don't go through instances, and you're just like, I can literally sail from one part of the map to the other, but during that time I can also be a pirate and not be in a faction, and I can be a pirate on the 7 seas of whatever the fuck it's called, and I can rob people, and I can do trade routes, and I can properly roleplay as like a merchant seaman or whatever they're called. But like, it was just so good. Like, even from inception of building ship to then having the ship, different ships as well, sailing the ship, and then being able to use gliders to like glide from ship to ship and have battles, and also cannons. It was just like, it was like playing Sea of Thieves inside an MMORPG. It was so good. And I'm just wondering, is that something that could be good in Guild Wars 2? What about sailing? Can you sail from different like areas of Tyria and have fun that way, or just in maps? Is it even needed? Is it a thing that's cool and fun?
You would need a new map for it.
Yeah,
I think that
absolutely.
would be fitting for a 4th world versus world map. That's
Yeah.
probably the best.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't have to be PvE at all, specifically. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I think that we talked about this, right? We talked
Yeah.
about
We've mentioned how there's currently a missing world versus world map because there's a duplicate of one map. And like the battle isles, and like there's a lot of new assets and stuff. Expansion 4, I think that would be a really cool to world versus world if there was, like, we had this area where there was kind of aquatic combat where you had ships and you could kind of play that role play value of like having that ship clash and then like gliding, and you have jump pads over to try to like land on the enemy ship and then fight them and all that stuff.
Cool.
There's a lot of stuff you could do with ship content, and you could bring it to PvE as well, but I couldn't see it being competitive. Maybe just as like, you have the unending ocean, maybe there's just like a long strip of map where like there's a bunch of fishing holes or little islands that you could like anchor and go and like find the treasure there, and then also use it as like an in real world transition from like Alona to Cantha and all that stuff. And like,
and for some reason there's pirate activity there between players because it's like the wilderness in RuneScape.
For whatever reason.
Hey, I'm there.
Damn.
I
When in
realize that
international waters, anything
yeah,
goes.
exactly. And throw those dice. Go for it.
I can see that being interesting PvE content, like open world bosses that you like fish out and you have to like cannon fire the boss down.
I appreciate everyone inputting on this. I do realize this is a very Jebro thing that I've added. And like, but I think we have talked about it before, but I actually enjoyed this a lot.
I think this is a very cool system. One of the things that I think is difficult with this system is that I don't think you have to have designed a game with this in mind from the get-go, but I certainly think that it massively helps like so much if you have designed a game around something like this. Not only for the actual map structure, design, etc., right? But to also to get players to buy into some kind of new larger scale system that I assume they would have to, and maybe they wouldn't, they might be able to do this in a different way, right? But in my mind, when I envision this, I imagined that like you would get a ship, you would upgrade it, you'd have your little crew, kind of Sea of Thieves-esque, or Warframe, which did this pseudo recently. And then, like we kind of talked about not so long ago, you would take that out, it would be on the world versus world map or whatever, you know, you'd have maybe different types of cannons that you could equip or whatever you would do with that. So whether or not you would have to have some kind of like larger scale build up before that, I don't know. Maybe they could just put you in generic ships each week and you could just, you know, and that could just be a thing. And you could do some cool stuff too with that, where you could use skiffs in the mode, where if there were, one of the things they did in Warframe was that they tried to tie in these like jetpacky kind of things that you used, these like wings, these like jetpack wings that you had that really they had not used in content for a very long time. And so they integrated these things where you'd have the crew that was manning the ship and trying to repair it and find, you'd have somebody on either side of the cannons or, you know, whatever it was. And they had this as a PvE mode, but I think it could work for PvP as well. And as you went around, you would come across different types of like resources that you could collect, or there might be little skirmishes, or in like an ocean, there might be, you know, little islands or something where you'd have to hop in, pile everybody in your skiff, and then try to like race there. So you could use the, you know, speed boost thing with your team or whatever to try and get there fastest.
Can you just do the Yeah,
you
actually.
do like this
Okay.
to try and get there fastest.
That reminded me
and-
of Final Fantasy, the with the thingamajigs as well.
Yeah, and like try to harvest or claim or, fight over whatever that island would be that would appear in whatever, random generation. So all of this I think they could do in Guild Wars 2.
Just a few ideas there, Rook, by the way. I'm like, yeah, let's go. Fucking all of it.
I mean, here's the thing, though. I liked those concepts, and I actually thought the content was cool, but it was a massive system that they introduced to the game, and as far as I know, it hasn't really gone anywhere.
Yeah.
It was huge, but it just kind of, maybe I'm very wrong, and because I haven't played Warframe a ton since they introduced it, but the impression that I've gotten is that people thought it was really novel at first, and it just like no one really does anything with it anymore.
Wait, what was novel in what? Sorry.
The ship fights and the arc wings and everything else.
I'll say this. I'll say I remember proposing, because of the fact that we got ships, we're getting skiffs. We were getting skiffs back when EOD was being announced. We were getting skiffs. We were getting turtles with multiple riders and cannons being able. I said, hey, we could have pirate ships now. That's the next step. That said, and all these things can be implemented technologically. The only issue is, does Guild Wars 2 need Sea of Thieves as a game mode in in Guild Wars 2?
Yeah.
Does it need another?
Yes, it does.
Or I don't know if it does. I don't know if it does.
That's the
For
thing.
the sake
I mean,
of World versus World's longevity, if like one of the existing maps was updated to have more water or something, and then there was a new one that better accommodated it, there is something missing for World versus World updates beyond the alliance system.
Yeah.
That I feel like it needs. There has to be something new to really spice up the scene, and you could structure it in a way where it is more meaningful to have those fights, and it's maybe that one map is like that's all that it's about, and it's really hyper focused. And you could build guild ships instead of like having a guild effort to build a guild hall. You have a guild ship, and then like
I want it now.
I think there's a lot of
this feature.
there are a lot of mechanical nuances that I think could possibly revitalize World versus World to some extent, but it also could go the way of Stronghold, where it's like
that's it.
Where
It
people
probably
are like,
would. Honestly, people just have
The amount of time
They're
it
very
took.
fixated.
People still are. It's still hard to get
They don't like
World versus
change.
Worlders to go on desert Borderlands. And putting them on a water world Borderlands would be very difficult of a sell.
people don't like change.
But it's tough
really
because,
don't,
I mean,
Griff.
look at the World versus World community, though. They have been crying out for new content for so long, and they deserve new content. But, I mean, this really is a big question. I don't think it's a bad idea to think about these things, and I think the community has to be willing to give them a true, genuine shot and provide feedback if they decide to do this once they're through the beta. Because if this is a game mode that we want to be multifaceted and given, a big amount of weight and to get new people into and to have variation and variety, then they have to experiment and they have to try new formulas for it. They could just release 4 more maps that are the exact same content, but people are going to get bored of those. You know what I mean? It's something where if it's going to be a game mode, I think you have to grow and evolve and add facets and different things to that game mode. And something like this does not sound like a bad idea. It sounds brilliant if it's done well and if the community will buy into it, but it would be a massive amount of development. And like everybody's saying, I worry that, if it comes down to it and people have the option like, oh, which map are we going to be on or whatever, they'd be like, oh, not the boats. I hate the boats. And then just, or would just completely avoid it or wouldn't play for the week or whatever it is if they tried to get people to invest in that specifically.
Yeah, it's always a decision based on the amount of man hours that they're going to put dev work towards in new content, right? So if it was part of an expansion where this is the big selling feature, maybe it's worth it if they really go all in on this new game mode. But at least in PvE, I'm saying. But I don't know. I don't know if they have enough work to do on other aspects of the game that I don't know if it's something that they could really devote their time towards.
And again, this isn't a like this. Sometimes in this with this specifically, it doesn't have to be. We don't have to think specifically about like the doability and whether or not it necessarily needs it. I guess it's good to have that conversation. I think it was like for me, it was like also that it was a fun conversation that we had for sure.
The conversation
it is. What
could we add and what should we add, right?
I'm just. Well, yeah, could. I mean, could.
First person shooter.
We could add everything to Guild Wars 2, and it already is almost everything. It just needs Sea of Thieves now too.
Yeah, that's it. Creef, you do say the first person shooter part, but in Star Trek Online, no word of a lie, they tried to add it. They made it so you could pull into the character, and they made it in the first person. Didn't really work.
It's ESO.
Yeah, first person. And it works. It actually doesn't work too badly, but it's the Guild Wars 2 first person is just for screenshots.
The ships, it would need to be balanced with aquatic and land. That's all I'm gonna say.
There we go. That's all you're gonna say, is it? We'll come up with a future podcast. Sorry, go on, Phonics.
I was gonna say, I mean, World of Warcraft kind of flirted with at least an element of ships with island expeditions, whereby you'd go off on a ship, you'd arrive at an island, and there would be resource harvesting and enemy farming, basically. So, I mean, it depends how far down the ship route you want to do. You could have it as a purely random spawn, jump on a boat, get somewhere, have some resources for a bit of variety. Or you could have it as detailed as actually, I mean, I can sail. My dad taught me how to sail. You could actually have it like how to sail and have races and technical points, and it could be a little discipline all of its own.
Hell yeah.
Or you could have it as an extension of housing. Yeah? So you have a houseboat.
I think we talked about this.
Oh my god.
We said this
a long time ago. I remember us talking about houseboats.
And it was, I think great minds think alike, because that is a fantastic suggestion. I think that's wonderful.
And you said races, so I think subconsciously Boots was already in.
Yeah, I was gonna say you sold Boots there with races.
There was something that Jebro mentioned, which we don't need to go into because honestly, I think we've harped on it so much and we've made our opinions very clear on it. But Jebro mentioned screenshots, which leads me to photo mode. I would love a photo mode in this game. Please give me a photo mode. The end. A lot of other games have photo modes. I would like a photo mode for Guild Wars 2. Thank you.
I just downloaded a photo mode add-on for WoW to get a thumbnail, and it's honestly so fun.
Yeah, I would.
It's so fun to do that
The only
stuff.
reason I don't want it is because I would be using it too much.
The J-bots could act like it, but like you can't go in first person.
We had that disappointment post-stream conversation, Griff.
Go first person.
We had that conversation.
Is the reason why we don't have it because of competitive modes? They're afraid to like sneak behind walls or something and see stuff.
You can't go on a Jade bot when you're in competitive mode.
No, it doesn't
It's
get
only
used.
PvE.
They said something about. They didn't give us a specific reason. I think they just. I can't remember if they did. I think they gave us reasons why they weren't existing in the world all the time, but they didn't say why we couldn't use it as a screenshot in different areas.
No, those are just the terminals. I'm just talking about, can I scroll in one more click to go into first person?
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, for
nice.
the henchman idea, just scrolling back real quick.
Wow.
We have
10 years ago.
You could just have turn all mini pets into combat pets.
Oh, WoW had them. WoW had combat pets. Like, that was cool.
Yeah. And then you could have a swarm of them, and they could behave like pocket raptors.
I'm gonna. There is a few bits and pieces here. I kind of want to hark on some biggies that I think are really, really good in other MMOs, and we can briefly talk about these if we want to. Something in New World and other games, they introduce a new weapon, for example. Weapon becomes the focus of the new content. So Guild Wars, New World just had Brimstone Sands, which just came out. Huge new map, which is twice the size of one of the maps, similar to Everfall, if you know that. And this whole new region, whole new theme, new storyline. The game is basically bang. It's top notch at the moment. But they brought a weapon with it. So they didn't extend levels or anything like that. But in New World, you have to level weapons, and it's a long process. It's not quick. And that's kind of what they've done with releasing a new map. You know, there's new quests, there's new experience, and there's new mobs to kill. So this experience goes towards that. But the new weapon means new gameplay, new ways of playing the game in all of the different modes, PvE, dungeon, etc., etc. There's a tank side to the weapon that you can rank up. There's a DPS side to the weapon you can level up. So there's all these different builds you can come up with. Guild Wars 2 has not had a new weapon. It's got new weapons for classes, which change the ability, give you brand new abilities, but it doesn't bring new weapons in, and that's something that I thought is actually quite a big one. And I know obviously bringing new classes in, new races in, all that kind of stuff. And Truth is like waving their finger. So do you want to start on this?
They brought in the gunblade. That's technically a new weapon.
Not really, no.
No, I think it looks like a greatsword and a combo with a gun. So it's kind of like, you know, but it actually does
You could say that with
function.
Hollow Smith, though.
It does function as a new weapon, and
But
it's
it doesn't.
Not
No, but it's not something
not a
that
physical thing
you.
to come
It's
back.
not a gear. It's not gear though. It's
But it's
like
enough.
a kit.
Is it
But
enough
it's-
though, Kroof? I mean, that's the
It's
thing.
enough of a new weapon for me
Okay,
because
okay,
it didn't
yeah.
stop there. There
That's
was another
logical.
profession mechanic attached to
So
it.
wait, Tio,
Just
if
stop
if
there.
engineer got
Wait,
one new
what
kit,
did you say? T-O?
yeah,
Tio.
time out.
Oh, okay, sorry. I was like, what?
If
Did people
if
say this in the
engineer,
conversation?
if engineer in their new profession, let's say in their new elite spec, got one new kit, you'd say, "Oh, that's enough of a weapon for me. That's a new
Yeah,
weapon,
but-
everybody."
In terms of the
That's
functionality,
okay. Well,
it
that's-
honestly is.
That's
It's
why
just
the question.
fire. It's just
That's why
fire
the
skills.
question. That's why the question is important as well, because. So I'll just take
And
this
weapons
apart a
are
little bit.
very different in Guild Wars 2 as well.
Yeah.
So this is a little bit, yeah.
So there is that.
It's like, how do you classify it?
There's like you can get the kit which can act as a weapon with 5 skills. Cool. Yeah, that's
You
absolutely
also
fair.
can't change the look of it.
You can't. No, that's true. But like with this, we're talking about for Guild Wars 2 specifically for you as well, and even for people listening or watching wherever. Like maybe you don't need a new weapon, but maybe we do. And there's loads of different opinions.
do.
No one's right or wrong about
do.
this. Just
We do.
by the way.
No, we do. You know, there
Okay.
are people who
I'm
are
just-
right,
I'm just
and that
saying
is,
that.
that is the people saying that we need new weapons because we
I
need new
agree.
weapons.
I think
Okay.
so.
I mean, it's one of those things where Guild Wars 2 isn't a unique situation, right? The fact that there is such flexibility with weapon types in the game, and the fact that adding a new weapon is not so simple as just we add a new weapon and then one class gets it and it's just a cosmetic thing for them and all their gameplay is otherwise set, right? So there's a lot that they have to take into consideration for this. But I do think, again, we get new elite specializations, and sometimes it is just a matter of, well, they didn't have access to this weapon before, so now they have access to this weapon. But for the future of the game, and if they are going to do another 10 years of this game, we need additional interesting things. You know, we need additional interesting weapons. We need to see how those weapons then could even add more avenues for other elite specializations and other classes. They can put restrictions on them. They don't even have to honestly do real world weapons. This is something that I've seen recently with Final Fantasy XIV, which I appreciated. They started just doing their own fantasy weapons. You know, you have your like astrologians have this weapon that's like their astrolabe or whatever it's
I think you
called.
say
And
ass.
No, it's this
Astroglade thing.
it's like this floating divination
good.
instrument, you know, and it spirals around, and then you have like a sheath of cards that
I
you
do
draw.
like that. It's cool.
So, I mean, they can do fantasy weapons. I mean, Sage, which is another healer, has these things that they dubbed Newliths, which are these sort of floating little
Knife
things that they
things?
control with magic. They're they're kind of not
Laser
huge.
guns.
They're like laser guns. They're like little
Oh, okay.
magical crystals, essentially, that you can focus magic through and then shoot
Ooh.
lasers out of. So, I mean, they can absolutely just start doing whatever and start adding in some world unique types of fantasy weapons, and I think it would just open up more possibilities for everything. But I'd like to see more down the road, and I you know, it's not, again, a brand new feature because they have added weapons before and they have a lot of weapons in the game, but I do think they should add more.
I'm just trying to put this through the lens of Guild Wars 2's design, because it is definitely different when looking at other classes which are extremely rigid. Like with 14, it's like astrologians have that astro globe glade thing, and it's so cool looking that the reason why I consider the Bladesworn to have a quote unquote new weapon is because that's how I feel like it would be the most organic way for them to add new weapon designs and approaches, rather than just like, oh, we gave you a great sword that everyone has. It's like, you could then have like a specialization for Elementalist where they have this cool floating astro globe thing with a bunch of spells swirling around it. So that's why I view it as I am content with it, because adding a whole new weapon, it's like, okay, then which professions get that weapon? Is every profession going to get access to that one particular weapon?
No.
What does that mean for the profession identity? And it's a little, because there's such strict skills as well with the first 5, so it's a little bit different of a conversation.
It's difficult, yeah.
But that being said, I think if they were to add anything, the aquatic weapons of Trident and Spear would be nice to see above ground.
And
Spear
give
gun is
half
a
of the classes Trident and half the classes Spear.
Possible, absolutely. I think that those weapons actually have some of the most unique looking as well as mechanical abilities in the game, honestly.
Imagine
so good.
Spear, people who made the legendary Spear finally get to use it on land. Oh, lucky. I mean, it is the best weapon in the game. It is the best weapon.
But there is some abilities, like, you know, the electrified cage from Elementalist.
Well, they would have to be
so
changed.
Cool. Yeah, but like you can make
The
it
abilities would have to be
smaller, a bit
different.
like a seat immobilized. It just looks, there's some wicked abilities like you could come out. There's just some really, but I guess that's, yeah, that's the thing with Guild Wars 2, right? And I do take that point on board as well. Like you said, with the Gunblade, like that is it is kind of like, I know what you're saying, Boots, as well, and I agree with both of you in both respects. It's a good way for them to appeal to people who do want new weapons by letting them play other classes where they have the opportunity to use something very unique and different that isn't necessarily going to break the game in a way where they would have to think about a lot of things, as well as the people that affects as well, and also skins, everything else, and teaching people how to use a brand new weapon. So like it would be, so like I thought about like Holosmith, for example, you know, when you go into Photon Forge, you technically have this like big ass one-handed sword thing, which is like a Holosmith weapon. It's very specific, new skills, all the things, very different, you know, very unique. Kits are very similar. That's why they don't have hardly any weapons at all, because they've got supplementary weapon skills, which are kits, which are somewhat unique. They're not all great, but like, you know, they're kind of fun, and they do open things up a little bit, and they're very unique. So it's an interesting, difficult thing to think about them ever doing. But I would love to see a new base weapon, like something from that would just add a little bit of, I don't know.
Imagine
I don't know.
The new expansion is more water based, and everybody gets their water weapons as land weapons, and then some land weapons get to be water weapons.
Actually, that'd be kind of fun. I'm not gonna lie.
An
Like
underwater
daggers,
hammer?
underwater daggers.
Underwater hammer, yeah.
Underwater hammer would be
What could you do?
wild.
I won't lie. I honestly think that
If you lie, it's okay.
I think some of the frustration, okay, I will lie then. I think that some of the frustration with underwater combat would ease up if they did make it something where your skill set and ability set was fundamentally the same underwater as it was above water.
True.
I know that there are reasons why, and there's special animations and the usage of space and verticality and you know, the multi-dimensional use of space underwater is its own difficult thing as well to deal with. That's why I think many MMOs have not even tried to do full-on underwater combat. But it is one of those things where I think it's particularly jarring for players when they go underwater and it's a completely different skill set that they only use in very specific situations, and it's balanced weirdly.
And especially with some elite specs, like 90% of the new elite spec mechanics are unusable underwater.
True.
That's
if you're an engineer, they're just like, yeah, fuck you.
Yeah.
It's just
Well,
like Mechanist is like,
they were.
every so
if they were going to do really try to bring underwater into the game again, really try to focus on a diversity of world builds, possible future modes like that boat mode for world versus world or whatever. I think that would be a necessary step. They would have to do something to really address underwater combat, large scale, you know?
Agreed.
World of Warcraft had an entire underwater expansion, and they basically gave the player, as part of the storyline, unending breath. And this, they called it, I think it was sea legs. What it allowed you to do was it allowed you to go and basically traverse the bottom of the ocean, like you were wearing one of those old-fashioned diving suits. Yeah, but they adjusted. It almost looked like moonwalking as they adjusted the kind of the physics of the movement down there. So you felt boundy, like you had buoyancy, but the combat was tied to the ground. Now you could go up and you could use all your skills and you could swim about, but if you for the easily disorientated, like such as myself, you could continue to be on the bottom and use that as a sort of a ground floor. And I thought that was a fairly reasonable solution. And they did that, oh my God, like donkey's years ago.
Yeah.
Cataclysm.
Yeah. Well, I like that. I like that as well. I'm gonna kind of wind us down a bit here. But that was a good idea as well. Rita mentioned just at the end there as well, could we do weapons as mastery points for everyone to access? I mean, there is a question. There is that question period? Well. We haven't got that much time, honestly. I think it is going to be, I might shift some of these over to another podcast. Yeah, but like to Rita Geek's point, I mean, being unable to unlock weapons for other classes on the core class via some way, I reckon would be very cool. I would love to have mace in my build for a core engineer and have a mace shield. I actually think that would be a bloody awesome idea, to be fair, because I really miss the fact that I can't do that.
I do agree that elite specs, if you train the weapon, you should be able to use it at any time. But in terms of masteries, I think the problem right now is like profession identity is already being scrubbed, and I don't think that would go over well. As if it was like
it would be, although lovely for me in particular for build making, it would be too hard to balance, I think.
Okay. This has been a great convo. I appreciate this. This has been awesome. There's a load. Don't get me wrong. There is so much more we could talk about. I've got other things, like I'll just give you an example. Something else I love from New World. They've got, instruments that you can play, and you can play it like Guitar Hero, and you can basically go through and you've got a mandolin, you've got a bass, double bass, you've got drum kit, you've got guitar and other things as well, and you can play in a band with other people. You've got Guitar Hero-esque kind of thing that comes up on the screen, and you can get buffs from it. Fucking great. People can play, there's mounted combat specifically. We're not talking about like just kind of going off the mount. We're talking about specifically like spears and like, just hitting each other while you're kind of on the back of a horse and all this kind of fun stuff. But yeah, there's loads of stuff to think about. There are some epic kind of questions and stuff that people did have as well. My brother tweeted at me, and it's something that I wanted to mention this as well. He said, the theme was anything in Guild Wars 2 that's not like, you can't do at the moment. To add, thank you, my brother. Says any game that has dwarfs, of course. Like you want dwarfs in the game. Yes, I agree. Absolutely. That's the only one that matters. The question was, no, I'm joking. But yeah, there's a bunch of questions, and I would like to potentially go over these at some point. But a lot of people talked about Final Fantasy 14 as a comparison for a lot of things that could be in Guild Wars 2. I think actually Final Fantasy 14 and ESO specifically were the ones that came up. Different things that could be introduced. I'm going to read one. One that's short. Oh, well, I was going to read the screenshot one. But we've already talked about that. We'll do it another time. That's better.
Okay.
Otherwise, we can do a question and answer one specifically. Put your questions down below. Okay, I'll start compiling them. Or if you put them on another video, that's fine. thingy will come up, notification. I can just add it to the questions. If you have questions that you would like to ask the Lightbringers about Guild Wars 2, go for it. Something in the comments below. Twitter, I'll put a tweet out as well. If you are able to comment elsewhere, I don't think you can. You can do that. Maybe I'll get that. But if you want to DM me or chuck it on the Discord as well. You've got the Lightbringers Discord. You've got my Discord as well for our community. Feel free to do all the things. If you ever have a question for any of these peeps as well, and they want to bring to the show, then we're open for these things. As the year starts to kind of wind down a bit in terms of content that's coming out, there's going to be, going to be grabbing at subjects. So if you have any subjects you would like us to embellish on that we've also talked about in the past, then feel free to offer your suggestions. But otherwise, we're going to end it there. Thank you everyone so much for watching and being here and taking part in the podcast today. Boots, what do you do it? Remind us, please.
Boots. You have ML World of Enders on YouTube, also on Twitter, and here, and on other podcasts like Host of Ascalon sometimes, and maybe Tea Time on Sunday. And see you later.
Cool. Rookery.
Hello, I'm Rookery. That's spelled Rookuri. You can find me over on twitch.tv Rookery, on YouTube as well, where I do a bunch of playthroughs and other content, and on Twitter at Rookery_. We've been doing a lot of fun stuff. This week I had the pleasure of being over on the official Final Fantasy XIV channel for their episode of Duty Commenced. That they do for their community outreach and things like that. It was so much fun. If you missed the VOD, be sure to check it out. And there will be more coming on all our platforms and all kinds of other fun things. So keep an eye out as always, because like I always say, if I'm not live on my own channel, I'm probably doing something somewhere else. And we try our best to make sure that everybody knows and can follow along wherever that might be.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Kroof. There's the thing.
Hi everyone, I'm Kroof. I do a lot of YouTube videos over on YouTube, where you can find me at Kroof, a lot of Guild Wars 2 and other MMOs. And you can also find me here on Twitch, streaming throughout the week. In fact, after this, I will be going and making soup and then doing a live reaction to the Balance Philosophy, because I have not watched it yet. So if you're around...
That might be a short show.
It's okay, I can talk a lot. It's fine. But thank you for inviting me. I had a blast. Catch y'all next time.
Short but worth it, because Kroof is very epic at talking about the balance things and class stuff. It's very technical. Been making some good build videos as of late, as well as Boots has as well, so make sure you check those out. Please make sure you go into the description, check out our awesome people. I would appreciate that. I'm sure people do filter into people's content in the description. Appreciate it. Last but certainly not least, Fornex. What do you do when you do it? I don't know. Proof is just cracking up in the background.
I thought you were going to skip over Fornex again.
What? No!
It's gonna stiff me again. God damn it.
Wow.
Oh,
Every time.
Unbelievable.
You just
I'm
get
so
your own
sorry,
segment now.
Fornax.
heartbroken. I don't know how I'll recover. So I'm Fornex.
That was quick.
Very fast. Hi, I'm Fornex. I'm the Crichton Herald. I do a lot of Guild Wars 12. A lot. Might be a bit of a stretch at the moment, but I do Guild Wars 2 content. I do fashion. I do guides. I talk about the lore. And I'm going to be doing some live streaming this weekend. So please come and join me and talk to me in the chat. And that's it. And oh, yeah. And this is my bits and pieces. So there you go. Bits and pieces live.
Thank you, Fornex,
You're
for
quite
showing
welcome.
your bits and pieces live on the
Wow,
podcast.
you're about to get banned, Jebro.
I mean, people could see that
Sorry.
was the case. It may be banned on Anchor or like Spotify or whatever it's called. All of the places. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. I don't want to take a minute to breathe in. I don't need to do that. I am Jebro. Jebro Unity on Twitch, twitch.tv/Jebro Unity on Twitch, obviously, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all the things. If you want to come and check out our community, I very much appreciate it. It is very sporadic at the moment, I realize that. And we're playing loads of different stuff. Less Guild Wars 2 at the moment. I've been checking out other games, and other than the Lightbringers podcast on a Friday is a staple, which is not going away. It's going to be here every Friday as long as I can, get in and do the things after my meetings. But otherwise, yeah, we've got our subathon this week, Saturday, which changed it to a 1-day event, and it's actually going for 14 hours for 1 day if we get all the things added. So subs, Patreon things, bits, tips, all the things. Yes, come along, have some fun. It's going to be big Guild Wars 2. We're going to have a few other games as well. Loads of different stuff to try out. And this is going to be hanging out. It's Halloween as well. So maybe if we get some goals done, I will dress up as some specific things. I have wigs, so...
Oh, you don't need them.
I've got 2 wigs. Hey! Hey. Hey. See you next week. Fuckers.
Damn.
Oh, whoops, everyone's like covered with Spotify now. Oh dear. Alright, thank you so much, everyone. I'm liking you in the face. Bye.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks very much for watching this episode of LightBringers Podcast. Actually, funnily enough, it's episode 30. And you know what 30 means. Goodbye.
30?